Hi there, I'm Lisa Taylor and this is Ideas on Truth. And I want to talk to you tonight about a line that I read this morning when I was praying that really struck me differently. I've read this line for years, my whole life, and it just struck me this morning. And this is the line, and it's referring to Jesus, and it says, "Through the magnitude of his human life, he demonstrated the divine life." And I just heard it differently. It made me feel like it gave me permission to express the greatness, the import, the importance, the significance, the immensity, the enormity of life, of my human life. And it just made me feel like, you know what? I don't have to hold back. I don't have to apologize. I don't have to play small. There's so many times, and I think so many of us do this. I think so many of us play small for fear of being thought ridiculous, for fear of being thought that we're all that, or that we're, thinking something of ourselves. And we need to be out there living the largest life that we can. We need to be expressing that divine sense of life. Through the magnitude of his human life, he demonstrated the divine life. And that's what we need to be doing. I don't know. I just really like this. It actually goes on and talks more. It says, out of the amplitude of his pure affection, he defined love. It's like, I love the descriptors that Mrs. Eddy uses. This is from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. Out of the amplitude of his pure affection, he defined love. With the affluence of truth, he vanquished error. And actually, I read that and I thought, oh my gosh, the affluence of truth. How often do we feel poor? Do we feel like we don't have enough? Do we feel like we're in lack? Do we feel like we don't have the affluence that we need? It's the affluence of truth. That's what we need to be thinking about, the affluence of truth. There's a guy that I used to work with years ago at the Christian Science Monitor, and he was covering the famine in Africa. And those of you who watch this have probably heard me say this before, but it's one of those moments in life that I read something and it changed my life forever. And I've referred back to it so many times. He had done this whole series on the famine in Africa. And at the very end of this series, after doing, covering many, many, many different countries for months and months and months of this severe famine, he came to the conclusion that this was not a famine of food. It was a famine of ideas. And that line just struck a chord with me, and I have never forgotten it. Because when we feel poor in terms of money, poor in terms of spirit, poor in terms of when we feel like we're lacking, when we feel like there isn't that level of abundance, it's not for lack of stuff. It's not for lack of things. It's not for lack of money. It's the lack of ideas, or the lack, since there is no real lack of ideas, it's the lack of us listening to the ideas and acting on them. And actually, a dear friend of mine, Colleen, who talked to me recently about a sense of lack and a sense of abundance, and we were talking back and forth, and she shared a story with me about an idea she had that she was going to act on. And I thought, it's really interesting how whenever we just truly listen and tune into what's already there. She had this idea. She acted on it. I haven't heard how this story has turned out, but I'm sure I will hear. But that idea has been there for years. It's not like the idea was new. The thought of listening to the idea and acting on the idea was new, and she was ready for it. And I'm sure it will bring a level of abundance that is so desired and so appropriate and so deserved, because it has to. It has to. And I love that those ideas are infinite and always present. There was a story I heard tonight about, what was it? There was a guy who early on in his, I think he was like in college, he was a young guy, didn't have a car, lived in this area, and they used to go to movies every Tuesday night or something. And there was a group of people that used to go. And then when somebody decided they didn't want to go, he wouldn't have a ride. And he really liked going to the movies, and it was kind of a thing. He was also a runner, and he would do these runs. And all of a sudden he realized when, week after week, he was the only one who wanted to go, and he didn't have a ride, and he didn't end up going to the movies. He realized, oh my gosh, I could walk to the movies, and that could be my exercise, and walk home. And I guess it was quite a long walk. But that solution was there all along. It wasn't like he had to go anywhere. He didn't have to go get something. He didn't have to go get stuff. He didn't need other friends. He didn't need other people's cars. He didn't need to go buy a car. He had the solution right at hand. It was something that was already within him. And all of these, of course, are metaphors for the truth. And back to the line, what does it say? With the affluence of truth, he vanquished error. With the affluence of truth, the affluence of infinite supply of ideas, of inspiration, we vanquish whatever seems to be the problem. Because it's always just an illusion. It's never really a problem. We just have to put on those spiritual glasses. Look through that spiritual lens. All right, I'm going to keep it short tonight. I'm coming on kind of late. I love you guys, and thank you so much for watching. Please share. It is always nice to share, as you know. And thank you so much for subscribing to the YouTube channel, Ideas on Truth. And always feel free to email me. I just love getting your emails, ideasontruth@gmail.com. Love you so much, and thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.